I thought you were always a Nashville guy.
No, I'm originally from Athens, Georgia, and then I moved to Chicago, lived there for 10 years. Well, there was a gap in between there. I went to London for a while.
Okay.
And
wow.
And then I moved to Nashville in 2000.
That's circuitous, I think they call that. The circuitous route.
I'll have to Google that later. And I think you made it up. But
Athens, Georgia. Where's Athens, Georgia?
Big Scrabble points to you. Athens, Georgia is northeast of Atlanta. It's where the University of Georgia is.
Oh, okay. That's where I've heard the name.
Bulldogs.
That's exactly what it is.
Yep. So put on the map musically by the B-52s and REM and Pylon and a bunch of other bands.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good musical stock there. So what years were you there?
In where, Athens?
Yeah, what years of your life?
Born and raised, I left in, I was born in Gainesville, which is a few miles up the road, but lived in Athens all my teen years, and I moved away at 21 to Chicago.
Neat. And then you stayed in Chicago. That's crazy. I thought you were a Nashville guy. You just seem like a Nashville guy.
I don't know what that means, but okay.
I don't know either.
It's not insulting.
It wasn't meant to be.
No, not at all. I mean, I was a club DJ, and which is what took me to Chicago. Well, how many hours is this going to be? Because I can go on and on and on.
A club DJ.
I did music, and I was working with a rapper who became Colt Ford.
Oh, that's awesome.
He was my best friend growing up. And,
really?
And we were dealing with some people in Chicago. We had a management deal with Jermaine Dupri's dad, he's a big rap producer. Mm-hmm. And it was through the people that we met in Chicago that brought me up there. And that didn't last very long. I started another band, and I didn't think I had the skills to DJ up there, but I became a big time DJ. I say that. I was working in the top clubs while I was up there. I mean, it was really one of the best times of my life. And then I didn't want to be in my 40s DJ until 5 a.m. And
I don't know. That sounds like a fun life.
Sorry?
That sounds fun.
It was, and it was a great time to be there. Now I wouldn't even hardly go visit somebody in Chicago now. But,
well, yeah, I can see that. But you can DJ anywhere. So, yeah.
True. But I wanted to get out of that whole thing. And I had started working for some sound companies in Chicago. There was a gap in there too, where I moved back to Georgia and was on radio. I did, and there was even a period where it was a rock station, and I DJ'd midnight till 6 a.m. And then there was a period where, so this girl quit, and I did all of their sales graphics on computer because I knew how to do that with Photoshop. And it was a program called, not Pages, but it was something else. But anyway, so there was several months where I would jock from midnight till 6, come back at noon, and work till about 7, go home, sleep, be back on the radio. But then I would track my show on Thursdays to fly out on Friday to DJ in Chicago on Friday and Saturday, to fly back on Sunday to be on the air by 11 back in Georgia to jock and start that whole week over. And that talk about taxing.
Yeah, but it still sounds like a fun little life. I mean, it beats digging a ditch or something like that.
I was younger, and it was a young man's game, and I could do it.
Yeah, DJing seems like that. So I kind of heard you say something about London in there.
Yes. So, my grandfather passed away, and my grandmother, he was a serious diabetic, and my grandmother wasn't able to travel because of that. And so she said, would you like to go to, take a trip on the QE2 with me? Cause I was that guy to just go. And so we took a trip on the QE2 out of New York to Southampton, England. And I met some people on board from England and Australia and all this, and stayed friends with them. And there's several other stories involved in that whole thing.
Right.
And so through that, this couple that I met had a friend whose son was a DJ, and we stayed in touch, and I ended up moving over there, and they had a label called Tasty Records, and it was a DJ group putting out house music stuff and threw parties all over London, and it was awesome. And
Man.
I got turned on to all kinds of new music, and then I brought that back over, and it was cool.
That's neat.
And the only reason that I didn't stay was the club guy that I started working for in Athens, in Georgia, said, don't go back to England. I want to open a club in Panama City. So stay here. And I did. And I never went to Panama City once. And one night he said, I guess I must have been moaning about it. Hey, when are we going to go look for spaces, you know?
Right.
And he said, you know, one day you're going to have to put your money where your mouth is. So I said, well, I can do that right now. And so I got a couple of guys together and started a group called Fungus. I could even pan over. I have the banner right here
Fungus,
on my wall. Huh? Let's see if I can. My mic stand is in the way, but
oh, nice.
So we started this DJ group, and because of all the tricks of the trade that I learned in London, back then I got a phone number, and it was just a voicemail number, and you could call in and find out where the next gig was.
Yeah.
So what we would do is we would play every like 2 weeks, and I would go to a club and go, what's your worst night? And of course it was Monday or Wednesday or Tuesday, you know, and I'd go, well, I'd like to bring some guys in here, bring some lights, some sound, some DJs, and I want what's on the door.
Right.
And they're like, okay. And I mean, it was packed from day one.
Really?
Because 3 of the guys that I had were from Curacao. So they were exchange students at the university, or, you know, foreign students for the University of Georgia. And they were in this, you know, this group of foreign students who loved house music. Mm-hmm. And this is 95. Wow. So they came out, you know, because it was all, you know, acoustic stuff and all that, which is great, you know, but they didn't have any venue to go to with that. And I mean, it blew up straight away. We were in the paper. We were playing and every place we played, they wanted us to be residents. Can we do this every Friday and Saturday? Right. I mean, I can send photos and stuff of it because it's great. And I just recently spoke with one of the DJs that was in that group, and it killed. And so I made my point, and that guy tried to make amends with me. Can we do this at my club? Will you bring it down here? And I'm like, no, you told me to put my money where my mouth is. And I did. And I'm going to move back to Chicago or go back to England. Yeah. One or the other. And I went back to Chicago.
So how'd you get from there to, so you were in Chicago doing house music. How'd you migrate back to Nash Vegas? Which I guess it wasn't that quite yet.
So after the radio thing, so about 97, I was trying to break into radio, and like, I just wanted to get out of the club thing. Mm-hmm. I don't know why. I was just a bit burnt out about it, and music was going in another direction, and somewhat. I mean, I never had to give a demo. I never had to turn in anything. I even though I didn't build up a name like some of these famous DJs have, and that was never an aspiration for me. Right. I went down and did the radio thing, and it didn't pay anything. I thought it was going to be WKRP in Cincinnati. Yeah. All you kids out there, Google that, look it up. Venus Flytrap and Dr. Johnny Fever. Mm-hmm. It wasn't like that at all. The program director was 18 and didn't know a third of the songs that were being played on the rock station. Really? And so, and because I jocked midnight till 6 a.m, I'd turn the computer off at 2 because I knew all the suits were asleep, and I'd start playing CDs, and people would call in, why don't you play this all the time? You know, anyway, so I moved back to Chicago, and I'm like, not only am I going to go back to the clubs because they've been paying me to fly up here, right. I'm going to get a day job, and I want to learn audio. I want to get into other aspects of this whole thing. And I did straight away because the club that I'd worked for that kept flying me up, they had a company that called Blue Audio that they rented their gear from. So the PA belonged to Blue Audio and they paid for it. So they're like, well, yeah, why don't you go work for Brian? So I got in touch with him who was running that. Interesting story about that is one day he sent me to my own club. Like there's a couple of bass cabinets the drivers need to be replaced.
Right.
So I crawled under the stage with a flashlight and some 18s, and I'm going to replace, in a drill, I'm going to replace these 18s because they were practically built underneath the stage. You couldn't just drag these out and do it. And, they were stenciled with Kiss all over it. And come to find out they were from 70s Kiss tour bass cabinets.
That's neat.
Yeah.
Did you keep them?
That was pretty cool.
Was it on the drivers or just on the boxes?
No. It was all over the cabinets.
Yeah.
So when I got to the cabinets and I'm going to put and
I'm
crawling close to them and dragging these 18s with me because I could pull them back underneath the stage and then replace them, on my side kind of thing. But like, what's all and there were stickers and stencils just said Kiss. So I went and asked Brian because, oh yeah, those are old Kiss cabinets that I got.
Cool. That's really neat.
Club.
So just about the DJ gigs, how you just book them as you just went in as the guy. When I see DJs like on TV, like they're I don't know, they're like partly a rapper and partly a showman kind of thing. Was that the kind of thing you were doing?
No, I was what they call a resident. So I had my nights at certain clubs,
right,
which was great because I could leave my records because back then I didn't go in with a laptop and a thumb drive.
Right.
I had to carry milk crates with records in them.
Really?
Or real cases, record cases. And there were places where I had to climb up a ladder or even have a hoist to bring all my gear up. But being a resident, I could leave them there. I did my nights, but I got called to do loads of other gigs. And the thing about me, again, not trying to be some big name DJ, there were times in the 90s, especially where there was all those, one hit wonder 90s rock bands. There was swing came back for a while. There was a time where I was in the VIP room at the China Club in Chicago and I started playing disco records and it blew up.
Hey, I like disco.
All over town, people started playing disco. And as a matter of fact, the club that I worked for later, there was a band called the Aphrodisiacs. The interesting thing about them, and they played on Thursday nights, and the Aphrodisiacs was some guy in LA put these bands together and cut these deals with these clubs. So there were, I don't even know how many, let's say 8 bands of Aphrodisiacs playing in clubs all over the country.
Right. And they were all the Aphrodisiacs.
A singer would go sometime and it was all disco and they would dress up and it was
that's
awesome.
Cool.
And, they would have a residency and live in town, but say a bass player would go, I want to leave Chicago for a little while. So they go swap with someone in LA or wherever.
Right.
And, New York. So they all had these kind of, I don't want to say an off night. Like usually it was a Thursday and that was a really cool thing.
That's really neat. Did they have similar set lists?
So my DJ, but I was, from the disco thing.
Yeah,
so
the disco.
Yes. I was really known for Neil can pull it off because a lot of these big time DJs, you go to see them and you're listening to what they want to do.
Right.
That's the whole thing. And that's the great thing about being a DJ in Chicago. When I was in Georgia, people would make requests and come up. And I even had this chart of rules, like don't ask me to play something with a beat. Don't ask me to play something you can dance to. Why do you think I'm here? Why don't you, did you just walk in the door? You know what I mean? And so when I got to Chicago, they don't ask you. Nobody makes a request. They came to hear you,
Really?
But I wasn't trying to really build a name for myself. So, but what I would do if swing was out, like the Brian Setzer Orchestra came out,
right?
Big Bad Voodoo Daddy,
Yep.
all those bands. Then I'd go do a night of that. And like industrial was a big thing. Front 242, Ministry.
Yeah.
I'll do a industrial set, you know, and someone would get me into, you know, a club would call me up. Can you come do this? I'll do it. And I'll find it and I'll bring it, you know.
Well, did you ever, so when you went to Nashville, did you go as a DJ? Like, is that what you?
Oh, not at all. No. My whole intention, I hate to say this, but I went to audio engineering school.
Oh, okay.
And I've never once put it on my resume. And it was.
It's out there now.
Just moved to Nashville and started working for a regional sound company straight away. I should have never gone to that. But it was a 9-month school. I was working for Soundcheck for a while. I got out of that, or once the school was over, I was the audio-visual manager of I wasn't the manager at first. I didn't even have that. But I was an audio-visual guy. There's only 2 of us at the arena. It was Gaylord Entertainment at the time. They called it the GEC. And Gaylord Entertainment Center. It's now Bridgestone. And cool. I was there for 3 years. And
so that's why you went. So you kind of went as a change of pace to Nashville.
Well, so I went there because I was living with a girl that was going into the Peace Corps. And she told me that from the beginning of our relationship. And the Peace Corps is a 2-year commitment. And I said, so while you're gone, I'm going to do whatever I can to get out of the club business. Because when you get back, I want to be able to go wherever you want to go. But I also don't want to be a DJ working till 4 or 5 in the morning and try to start a family or something. Well, I lived up to my end of the bargain. She didn't last very long in the Peace Corps and got sent back.
She's not very peaceful.
A lot of this I'm going to regret being recorded.